Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to bring back these beautiful panelists from last week, where we touched on how we experienced grief and loss in the past few months, years, and how we have actually dealt with them. And as we have these beautiful people back, there are some stories that you might relate to, maybe some that you have never actually thought about. And there are some topics that came up during this conversation of grief and loss that I want to say self-care came up, that I've noticed is actually something that in all the subjects we've had so far in these panel discussions in Sharing with Heart in the past few months has come up consistently. In the realm of motherhood, in the realm of diseases, self-care is key. And at the same time, self-care, as we might understand it, or maybe even the dictionary describes it, it's considered the care of ourselves. And I noticed that that can also be misled. It's not just about me isolating myself from others to take care of myself, to give some time to myself, although those are really helpful things. And I'm sure my beautiful panelists today will be talking about that part. I also want to bring this awareness of taking self-care in the sense of community, in family, in community that think alike you, that maybe give you a space to just be as who you are without judgment, and possibly talking about grief and loss in a community that went through something tremendously difficult that you went through, that you can relate to heart, that you don't have to explain what that was or how it might feel, because there might be something that's already self-explanatory. And so talking about this, I want to introduce my beautiful people, and I'm just going to do as I always do in this beautiful circle that I have in front of me. So on my left or right is Antje Swart, who is from the Consciousness Elevator, and I just love to have her here again. She always brings so many more insightful things and way to look at it differently. So I'm super excited to see what she can share around self-care. We have Naomi Vladek, who is a creative coach, and she just also has so much to say about that. And Diana, who's been here for the past few months, kept repeating it, and breath definitely is her go-to. And so all of these beautiful women, I want to welcome you to this discussion today. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So I'm excited to talk about this, and I just want to hand it off right to, right off to Antje. If you want to start off, feel free to do that. And so, yeah, off you go.
All right. Thanks, Raditya, for bringing us together again here. And self-care is always important. And it is even more important with grief and loss when you think you've lost everything and you've lost a part of your identity as such, because now all of a sudden you're not with that person anymore. And that triggers an avalanche of reactions, not only in your body, but also on your mind and in your heart. And it's a huge change. And it needs to be addressed. It needs to be gently addressed. It needs to be taken care of. And who's the best person to take care of you? It's yourself. So even when you forget and think life is not worth living, and you're going through that shock and that grieving and that pain, I mean, that pain is real. I know this from losing my husband about, what's it now, 7 months ago. The pain is real. And what people don't understand about this pain is the chemical addiction. And I think I'm going to kick this off actually mentioning and speaking about this chemical addiction, because when you understand that, it is so much easier to navigate through that, because you understand what's happening in your body. Now, a person that we love and care about, or being, that can be a pet as well. something that we really treasure and love and care about triggers a chemical reaction in us. When we think about it, when we are in the presence of that being, and we are so used, it's a habit. If you have loved somebody for many, many years, it's a habit, it's a subconscious habit. So, this is your stimulus, this is your fix for feeling good. This is why you go there. This is why you've chosen, this is what you do, right? We only love the people that makes us feel good, okay, in one way or the other. So you have a cocktail of chemicals that gonna get triggered. And when that person isn't there anymore, you don't have your fix. And you're an addict. We are all addicts to our emotions. This is how humans function. And Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it so beautiful in his research. And now you're going through physical withdrawal symptoms because you don't have your fix anymore. And your hormones go, oh my gosh, I know this from my own story, from my own experience. When my mother passed away, I still had my husband who would make me feel good, who would hold me and everything. Now my husband is gone, where the heck do I go, right? What do I do? So now my body, mind and soul is totally in upheaval. And then it is extremely important that you take care of yourself. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. And there's a whole lot of things how to do this. But the stress, that was my personal thing, the stress from leading up to the passing, and then afterwards, the adrenals throw out everything. And I was very fortunate to have the right supplements, the right nutrition, and the right company around me so that I could take care of myself by letting go of everything else. And I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to pass it on now to these other beautiful, wise ladies.
Oh, thank you very much, Antje. Yes. And, it's so funny. This month for my training, compassion is actually the theme. And so I've been studying reading the books that we're supposed to be reading, but supposed to is actually an understatement because I really want to read them. It really is so, the self-care and the self-compassion that we have to bring and to give ourselves this time to transition from something that was to something that is really tremendous. And I think this self-awareness, and one thing, talking about self-awareness before we get deep into this, and I had to get a little reminder here from my dear friend that I never introduced myself, and I can tell you now why, because I just had this conversation with someone yesterday at the dam that I usually go to in the morning, and he asked me for my name. And so my name, Raditya Lazary, and Raditya is not a very common name, so people usually forget it, don't remember, can't say it right. And I don't care. As long as I know that you talk to me, that's all that matters. And this is why I forget to introduce myself all the time, because I don't think it's this important to be seen and heard for this. Yet, I want to let you know, I'm from Mindful Being. I'm creating these panel discussions, sharing with her, because exactly what Antje was saying about self-care, this chemical reaction, because being in the group of these people just makes me feel whole. It makes me feel alive, and it makes me question things that I never thought about. People are going to bring something to me that I will leave with and I will think about throughout the days. And it's something we can't miss. And so this is so important. So whatever Antje just touched on with self-care about the chemical reaction, it's that feeling that we have that is undescribable. And that self-care leads to self-compassion. And talking about grief and loss, self-compassion is the go-to that we have to establish. And it's actually a natural thing. It's just very hidden from us because it's not something we learn. So having said all this, I set it up to the two other ones that want to share something, Naomi or Diana, whoever wants to go next.
I can just add, I just want to acknowledge, I'm Naomi Vladik. I'm a creativity coach and transformational coach. I work primarily with artists and creatives. I love what you all are saying. It's I'm in a conversation right now as part of a coach training called Coaches Rising with this coach, mostly coaching business practitioners to be more mindful in their daily practice. His name is Jim Dethmer. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Radhiti, you modeled so beautifully this question that they posed to us right away, which is like, who would you be if there was no problem to solve? And it's like, yeah, so I didn't introduce myself, and that's not a problem. You know, like, and so I think about like mindfulness as self-care, because if we can start to understand when we're in, they call it like a to me versus an as me state, and there are other states of consciousness in this model, but we talk about like, when am I under the line, right? Like, when am I in my unconscious driving my beliefs and my patterns are driving me, my belief that there's a lack. And this goes to Antje's beautiful telling of this fix. It's like, when we think something's missing, which is what we all come to each other with when we're in grief, like there's something missing, lacking, whether it's control or security or approval, or this feeling of like oneness and intimacy, or for some of it's like, I just need to be separate, or I want to be unique and different. That what if we can be with that, like really radically be with all the attachment, you know, and like let it be so obvious to us that we're attached. Just be fucking grief filled and be angry, be wanting, be in that wanting state, just resting in it, allowing yourself to be in there. Because you really can't shift consciousness until you're able to accept that, you know, experience viscerally, somatically, the whole thing, that experience, so that you can start to make a shift, consciously be willing to shift, because it is such a fix, you know, and it can be so satisfying and connecting and all this. And so when it's gone, we feel there's something missing, or we tell a story that something's missing based on our family of origin stuff, right? So there's this whole, like, you know, this practice of like, we're enough, we have everything we need. And also allowing space to be in that to me state before you can get into, I think what Radhiti was pointing to is like, when we can be in a consciousness where we are the creators of our own reality, where we're not in blame or trying to control or what the outside, sort of getting it from elsewhere. So when someone leaves, like Auntie was saying, it's like, so my mother, you know, dies, and then my husband dies, where do I get this from? And so it's sort of like a turning inward. And that, so for me, self-care hugely having everything to do with this practice of mindfulness and building awareness of the states I'm in and the agency I have available to me, and also allowing myself to be in the well of attachment and you know, to the wanting, you know, to sitting in lack, to sitting in that place, so that I can see it really for what it is, but see it, not just be in it unconsciously. That's my piece.
Beautifully said. Beautifully. Yes, Diana.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Well, there's so much have been said already. For me, that you were talking about acceptance, you know, acceptance for me, it took a very long time, as I mentioned last time, for example, to accept that I was burned out, to accept that I was not moving back to my parents and I was carrying all these griefs. And it took me a long time, but when I accepted it, and also I was always trying to fix this emptiness, as you know. I mean, we're talking from outside, as you say as well, Antje. I realize while I'm talking with you, maybe I was trying to fix that emptiness that I felt when I moved to Sweden when I was 15 years old, by, you know, different people, and later on with my husband and my kids, and filling that empty space and the lack that I was feeling. And we also, before this talk, we're talking about our health and our body and how we look at ourselves. It's a funny thing when I realized that when I started to feel whole inside, when I was feeling more my cup in from inside, all the other things kind of, you know, disappeared kind of more and more. So for example, as I mentioned with disease, I was addicted to chocolate totally, and sugar and so on. And now suddenly, okay, I can take it sometimes and enjoy it, but I don't crave it anymore. And my body, I'm totally fine with it. I don't really, I'm just happy. I'm feeling just happy and content. And the funny thing is I actually lost the weight, but maybe it's because of the cold baths, because we tend to do that. But I mean, I it wasn't intended, and I just like, you know, and I don't need this fix from anyone else, and then kind of feel whole inside. But there are days when I feel grief, for example, for losing my father and so on, and I still get quite sad, and then that kind of emotional addiction comes back for safety, for the love of a parent and so on. And then yeah, and then I sometimes go to my husband and hug him, and it's like, he's like, okay, it's like, no more. You know. So yeah, there are things like that too. But that I found, that I was talking about all the months now, it's that when you fill your cup, when you take care of yourself, your inner self, and you realize that you are enough as you are, just because you exist. It's one thing to know it mentally, but it's totally other thing to know it and feel it in your body. And as I mentioned before, Antje's hypnotherapy really helped me, because even though I'm a very logical person and I could say the affirmations to me and so on, it took a while until it just dropped to my body and I really got it. And then I got it, then the change started. And I also wanted to mention about you're talking about the self-care time. I love my self-care, you know, the breath and nature and being by myself, because I can still be very overwhelmed because I feel my surroundings a lot. But also connection with you guys, it's really giving me, uplifting me and giving me some other self-care time. And I remember when my father passed away, me and my mom and my brother and his family, we went to the sea in Lithuania, where we used to be when I was little. And it was just a beautiful way of self-care as well, walking in the forest, walking to the sea, swimming in the water, and just, you know, spending time with people that you love and care about, without feeling any musts or anything, and just, you know, remembering nice things, but also just enjoying the now. So yes, self-care can be in so different ways. So thank you.
Yes. Ooh.
Thank you, Diane. I mean, there's a few thoughts that I'm having, and I noticed that a lot of people in this group right now have things that you want to share as well, as you are sharing with us these vivid experiences that you have with your family after you lost your dad. And the one thought I want to share right now is a conversation I just had with a guy that I'm having ongoing conversations around these topics. And it's about society. It's about how the world around us is created by us, in how this fix, how this, what was it that you called this, dependence and this addiction to belonging to this society, the way it's created, be it financially, be it emotionally, be it being in a certain way that to fit in, right? And I had this conversation around how can we be within our own rights, grounded in the way and who we are, without compromising it by what is expected from other people, from society, from our work, from whatever we're doing that is around us. How can we create that? I don't want to use distance, because you want to integrate it, right? You want to have it part of you. You want to make sure it's not you trying to separate yourself from it, but bring it in a way that still is you. And in a way, I have not experienced a loss that any of you have, to the closeness that you have. I have lost some grandparents that I haven't been close with, and that's about it. You know, my parents are alive, and they're not well alive, but they're alive. And so my reason to visit them on a regular basis, especially this year, next week is going to be my third time in 6 months, is really to the thanks of Diana, is to the thanks to someone else that I've met that lost her mom, to really put more importance to it. And to exactly what you said, Diana, to really cherish these moments we have right now. We cannot anticipate the future. The abundance of finances is not going to give us this moment we have right now. We have to live now. I am beyond passionate of mindfulness. I had my talk yesterday in my mentor group. It was about profoundly changing yourself so you can be the change that is needed for the world. It's not to change the world, but it's to change yourself for what the world needs. And this is why I deeply want to create this group of people, because the only way we can be right here, right now, in this moment, cherish what's in front of us and not to think what's happening in 5, 10, 30 something years is none of important. It's not important at all. Figure out a way to be okay, to be here right now. And if you're not okay to be here right now, ask yourself again, why am I not okay right here, right now? What am I missing on this earth right now to be with the people I love, to be with the people that I want to be? And do not ever compromise yourself to belong to something that might not give you satisfaction or the feeling of, I want to be here right now. Because right now, I do not want to be anywhere else but right here with you guys. And this is exactly why I do these things. I'm meeting people because I want to meet them. I don't hang out with anyone anymore just because of I want to hang out with someone. Then I'd rather sit alone by myself, take care of myself, do some self-care, light a candle, get a book, pull a card, do something fun with myself. There are millions of ideas. If you don't have an idea, if you're watching right now, because I know the people on here right now, they know what to do when they're by themselves. But if you're watching and you are lost because you don't know what to do when you're by yourself and you need to call someone and you need to go somewhere, this is the time you should reach out to one of us, because we can give you millions of ideas how to overcome. In any of the things we are creating, you will find that. So anyway, this is me. After what Diana has said, it just is what it is. So anyone, please. Thank you for listening.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. And I want to put something on top there. I would love to claim this phrase for myself, all right, but I've heard it from a friend. And she called it balanced kindness. So we were like, what? You know, and I love it. So I use it, okay? The balanced kindness is you are kind to yourself, but not on the cost of others. And you are kind to others, but not at the cost of yourself. And if you look at this, this is so beautiful, because in our two of the 6 basic needs of human beings is the known, you know, and the habits and the comfort and the variation. And if you think about it, it doesn't make sense, right? But if you look at the energy curve of everything, it always goes up and down. So sometimes you want to be comfortable and you want to do what you've always done, right, in your habits without thinking and resting. And other times you want to be all out and explore other things. No? And I think we need to, in our self-care, just really become more acceptant. When I listen to you, Radhika, and to Naomi as well, a lot, you know, it was acceptance. And Diana is a beautiful example of that. You know, she now accepts herself, you know. And when we accept our needs, our cravings, our wants, then a whole lot of things fall into place. because we do it consciously and we do it deliberately and we are okay with it. And I think this is the most biggest step of self-care, is that we are okay with our choices. And right now I choose to be here. I've got a whole lot of other things, you know, and I thought that should be done and that want to be done. And I thought, no, I had a very interesting day so far. I'm going to be here now. And I'm happy to be here.
I just want to add one quote that I used this whole week, which describes exactly what you are saying, which is by Lao Tzu. And it's about nature never hurries, and yet everything is accomplished. And this is exactly what we need to follow more. And that's one part that I was saying to this friend earlier, actually just before this call. And I was saying that I noticed like so many people are just doing, and which is fine, but you have to be doing with attention and intention that you are actually doing this thing right now, not because of some other outcome that you want. So I just wanted to add this, because this is exactly what I've been having in my mind about. Naomi, you're muted.
I'll step into that invitation to think about nature a little bit and add my creative mindset, thinking about what you're all saying. Yeah, I feel like nature has so much wisdom, and you know, when we're looking for a shift, we can often find it just there. Like if we're walking there and we can find even like a radical shift from like being really stuck to being in a more of a connected, really higher level consciousness by just being in nature. So that's one big self-care. If we're talking about self-care, that is a serious go-to for me almost on a daily basis if I can get it, but nearly every day. We're talking about planning in the beginning, and this attachment to seeking, you know, where we're just doing and responding to this inner sort of habituated, very human, you know, pursuit of filling holes, you know, without much intention. So, you know, to take both from Raditya and Auntie's words, you know, it's sort of like we're moving through our seeking brain, our doing brain, all the things we think we have to do. It's just driving our buggy all day long, and we're not really stepping back to think, am I in any kind of choice here? Or maybe we're unhappy. Maybe there are lots of there's resistance operating. Maybe we're anxious. Maybe we're depressed. Maybe we're eating badly. All these things may be happening, but we're not pausing or inviting what's available to us to start to shake that up a bit. So in my work, what I do is try to attend to both ends of that spectrum, where, you know, we're doing the work we're doing here, which is talking about what is happening biologically, physiologically, emotionally, when we are in an unconscious state of autopilot, let's say. And then also filling people's cup with their vision, like what is possible for you, like really holding that sort of possibility. And that's where I think community comes really in, Raditya, like, you know, when you're feeling a sense of real belonging and other people are holding your values, and you have this beautiful permission to like really step into this scary place, because the ego and all of that stuff that we're talking about doesn't really want to shift. It's like the unknown, and that's like danger, right? No, don't like leave your job, don't start a new life, hold on to the past, just hold on for dear life, because the future's too scary. And that's unconscious, like physiological stuff going on there, and psychological, neurological, all that stuff. But like, so holding both of those is kind of like the work. And in that creative place, you really are doing things like we're talking about, playing with patterns, shifting your habits. You know, Diana's talking about like really calling your attention to your habits. What work has to be done underneath? And what's the vision for your life and playing with pattern, pausing, all the ways we pause in our lives. And artists do this, like with residencies or just meditation, mindful walking, all of that. Play is a big one, like being playful, opening yourself up to that space where nothing's premeditated, you're engaged in play, which is a different circuitry in the brain. And also what I've tried, because I was really fearful of change my whole life, and is provoking change, like really stepping into something and seeing what happens, sort of like letting the gate open to something, even if you're really resisting. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. How can you provoke that change and prepare for it? So, finding ways to kind of begin the shift, but you got to do both things. You got to do all this work here, and you got to really imagine what's available. These two things. Thank you.
Thank you. And before Diana is sharing, I just want to let all of us know what Antje started this conversation of is what Diana is having right around her is this little cat that probably gives her that self-care, that cuddly feeling when we need it, right? She knows why she's here, or he.
Yes, she does. She usually sits there in my lap when I'm just trying to write on the computer, and it's like, okay, I think she wants me to stop, and I see her paw on my computer, and I was like, sit there just for a few seconds, and just be aware and just clap her. It's such a relaxing time. It's like so funny. My son said, he's 14, he just like, if someone is depressed, they should have someone like Stella. He's just like,
Did you know that cats gravitate to negative energy, whereas dogs gravitate more to positive energies? And this is now linked to the grid line of the grid lines on the earth. So cats have their spots and dogs have their spots, and the cats more like to lie on the negative ones, the crossings like the Curry lines and the Hartman's grid and that kind of thing. The dogs apparently go more to the positive one. And in ancient Egypt, cats were used for healing powers. So they would, that the ancients were worshipping the cats, and they used the cats for healing power. So they would put the cat next to the broken bones and that kind of thing. And then that energy was transformed. And once you know that, it makes so much sense, because the animals sense when we need love, and then they come, and cats and dogs in that regard, I must say, are alike. And then they just sit by you very quietly, or they come on top of you. Just observe that. And the computer obviously is kind of, the electromagnetic field. However, if I try to read a book, my cat also is going to sit on the middle of the book. So,
yeah,
but I thought
she loves books.
Yeah. But animals are great for self-care. Absolutely.
You bring that. This is something and my dear friend that I was actually referring to is watching, because he just made a comment that he loved the quote by Lao Tzu. So I'm like, welcome, Daniel. I'm so happy to have you here if you're still watching. So one thing I noticed, I'm going on this walk the dam. I mean, I can tell you stories, endless stories about my dam walks that I'm having, my dam walks that I'm having with an N. It's going to them. And it's actually, I see people, some have dogs, and there was this one dog I haven't seen for a long time, and he lets him go from the leash, and he runs to me in full joy and just happy to see me, and I'm just like petting him, whatever. And so I'm leaving this place thinking to myself, if only we could be as loose with our emotions as animals are. And as you just showcased, Antje, is like cats or dogs, whatever, your negative as well as your positive emotion. And I'm thinking like I should have a dog and a cat, so I know what I'm in, what mode I am right now. Am I more in a negative or more a positive way? So it's really to let loose of them. And this is, again, we're talking vulnerability last week, right? And this is the greatest strength that we're having, is vulnerability, is letting our emotions be seen. Maybe not always heard, because anger sometimes has a little bit of a rough thing around it. But if we want to be heard, maybe in a more gentle way, even if it's anger. And yeah, so I think we should be more like animals sometimes, where we can just be and show how we're really feeling and not try to cover it up. So yeah, Diane, I don't know if you had something additional there.
Yes, you know, about feeling emotions and not shutting them down as I used to be until I got sick. Right. I agree, totally agree. I mean, it's amazing. But when until you talked about dogs, my parents have a dog, a really beautiful dog, and he was mostly with my dad. But when my mom's dad was sick, he was protecting my dad. He was there all the time and licking on his hands when he was lying. And it was so beautiful. And at the end, he was in a room where the dog couldn't go up because the staircase was too narrow. So, and it was just a few days before my father got into hospital, and the week later he's passed away. So the dog was sensing something, and he was, you know, just howling like a wolf, and he was uneasy and everything like that, and he wanted to get up and he couldn't, and he just felt uneasy. But after my father's passing, he was following my mom, and he still is. Everywhere she goes, he's following her, because I mean, she feels still sadness and loneliness, and he just goes there, and he puts his head on my mom's hip just so she can clap him, and it's such a soothing and beautiful thing to do. And I'm so happy that she has that dog with her now in that big house where she lives alone now. So it's yeah, animals are amazing. As I said, my kids also, they love it, because I didn't want to have animals, to be honest, because I didn't want more responsibility. But all in my family, all of them wanted. And after I saw my kids playing with my parents' dog, but also the cats, the neighbor's cat. And I saw that love, but also the mindfulness of especially my son, who was sitting there with that cat in his lap, and he was just here and now, because usually his mind is very busy, here and now, and it's just such a love and care, that connection with that cat. I realized I think it could be good for him. So I'm really happy that we have that little Stella now. So yes, and I just wanted to say to what Naomi was talking about, self-care. No, sorry, now my mind went away. I had a thought and it went away when you were talking. I just forgot. Sorry, but I didn't want to say more. There was something about about self-care. I'm usually the one taking care of people around me, because it's how I am, and I actually like it, and it's fine, and I enjoy it. Before I felt, you know, that something is wrong with me, I shouldn't, but I do enjoy it, because it gives me pleasure to see people around me feel good. And so when my kids are sick, I usually tend to be very try to be with them as much as possible if they want to be with me. So, and I have that possibility and opportunity to do that. So my kids were sick like almost 2 weeks now, first one and then another one. So I didn't have time for my own self-care in that way, but I was with them, conscious, playing, and, you know, spending time and watching videos together with them. So it was also some kind of self-care time. But it came to a point where I felt that I think I need to think for myself now and be more conscious with me. So last week I was actually kind of depleted, I felt, at the end of the week, and we had guests the whole weekend and everything, and it was lovely. But this week I really feel that I need a self-care, me time, and go to nature and finally take a cold bath. So tomorrow it's my cold bath time. So
this is amazing. Please share your view. We have at least 15 minutes to close today's session. So whatever calls you to talk about, expand on ideas that people thought, or even start a new one. In 15 minutes, a lot of things can happen. And I just wanted to, we talked about all the different aspects of self-care. There is the self-care of self, there is the self-care within a group, and then how to navigate them. And as Diana just spoke about, how to navigate the two. And sometimes you have to just put yourself aside because someone really needs you, because they're going through something like an illness or just other things in school or whatever that is. So, but we always have to have somewhere, somehow, at least in our back of the heads, that we know, like, okay, I have something coming down. It's coming my way in a few days, that I can take care of myself. And that alone, that's like planning a vacation, right? Like, it's sometimes more exciting to just plan it and then have something to look forward to than when you actually travel. Then you, again, once you arrive, that's fun and nice, and then you enjoy it for the first few days, and then you're already thinking about, like, oh no, it's ending. And so it's like this whole disaster of how our thoughts, which you touched on, Diana, is like really taking us on this roller coaster. It's actually not life per se that takes us on a roller coaster, it's our thoughts and our minds. And what I really loved about our today's conversation, which Antje started, Nomi touched on, and then Diana also brought it in again, is just to really increase this connection between what's going on up here and what is happening in here. Because what I've learned yesterday also is that the nervous system doesn't react or respond. It just happened. And what is happening, though, is whatever is in our minds, it then reacts and responds to however our nervous system is happening, whatever is happening to it. And so what we really need to do is to make sure we're taking care of all of our parts, not just our minds and our thoughts, not just our emotion, not just our health in what we eat and how we're functioning as physical attendants, but also everything, how it relates to one another. Because maybe I'll do sport every day, but there might be a day my body says I'm enough, but I have to let my mind allow my body to let this be something to take care of. And so really like this tandem between body and mind, and that both have their place to be.
I'll just jump in there. I really appreciate what Diana was saying. In fact, when I was walking this morning, I was having that return to self after a few days of taking care of my child who was homesick. And also similarly loving, like, being so nurturing and all that good stuff. And then when I knew it was my time, I was making sure I was taking my time even before this call, and feeling celebratory about it, and also not attaching to any, like, people like this experience of like, oh, my child's sick and now my life is, it's hard. Everything's hard because of it, instead of like, can I just be with what is there? So that's a beautiful demonstration there. And I resonate with that a lot. And so actually grateful to myself that I have that ability, because I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. The other thing I was thinking, especially when you're negotiating other people all the time, as we do in our families, and I've had a lot of practice with this, and I'm still a beginner, but a lot of practice over the past 3 years. I'm learning how to communicate better around my needs. So like everything we do to meet a need, is somebody's quote. And that really helps me. I think about that. So if I can get a sense of what I'm needing, can I be transparent about it? Because so even with my kids or teenagers, I can say, you know what, mommy, I don't have it right now. So I need everyone to like just brush their teeth and get themselves to bed. I'm gonna, or with my partner, being able to say, actually, it helps to have a partner who is helping me help myself, because it's really hard, even for a mindful person. There's a lot of fear in expressing our feelings and needs, and certainly making requests and but once you get in the habit of it, it's really can be a playful place to say, hey, I'm noticing this, and it would feel really good if you can make some space for me today just to, help me with the laundry. You know what I mean? Like it could be that kind of thing instead of sitting in like, nobody helps me with the laundry, like this story, So, I mean, and those are small, but then they go to the bigger, which I think balanced kindness, to use your phrase, Anji, is like, for me, being so in over pleasing most of my life, is that actually being clear is kind. This whole like clarity is kindness thing, I think Brene Brown was bringing that out and other people, but it can really get in the way of authentic expression. I mean, it does, it completely messes up with authentic expression if you're trying to avoid clarity, but for fear of hurting someone because your nervous system is saying, if you do, you're going to implode, or they'll implode, or someone will die. Like that's what's happening. So, these small practices, I mean, they're so important, and they can be really fun in a supportive, again, like supportive community of people who are willing to practice with you. So it takes practice, all of it. So, and I appreciate being in community with you who value the work, because it means you're really showing up for yourself. To Raditya's very powerful sharing before, we have to do the work. We have to do it for ourselves. That's how we create the change and ripples in other people's lives, in service as we are to other people. Yeah. So thank you for.
This is beautiful, Naomi. Thank you for bringing all of this up. And I mean, I do a lot with hypnotherapy, and this is your thoughts and these are your belief systems. And if you look at a baby is totally transparent, open and authentic in expressing their desires and their emotions and their feelings, right? So the thing is that we kind of forgotten, and what is always so fun to remember, because it's there, it's still there, is that not expressing and having that fear of vulnerability and the concern somebody is going to implode, that is an assumption, right? And that's a learned behavior, because very small, we would just go, I want milk, and we would scream, and we would be demanding, and we would be authentic and open with not a concern in the world. So it's a learned behavior. And because it's a learned behavior, the beautiful thing is it can be unlearned, right? It's in the subconscious mind, of course, but it can be changed. And that is a beautiful thing. And also staying in the moment, which brings me back to my child is sick. Yeah, it's sick today, but that doesn't mean that your whole life is going to be like this. And with the animals, the beautiful thing that we can learn from the animals, they're in the moment. They don't hold a grudge, and they don't project into the future. They're in the moment. And if we could be so much more in the moment, life would be so much easier. Because if I feel bad today, it doesn't mean that my life is going to continue feeling bad. And if I feel happy today, let me cherish it, because it's not going to last either. But it's always the projection into the future of something that might or might not happen based on the past. I mean, let's just be in the moment. I don't know if somebody is going to explode. I don't know what's going to happen. My child might be better tomorrow, and their life is beautiful, and I don't know. There's so many things I don't know. What I do know is that this moment is good.
And also, if you're happy today, doesn't mean you're going to be happy all day. You can change immediately the second, or to the other way around, which actually, unless someone else wanted to add something to what Antje was saying. So, it brings, I just had to look up what are the other discussion that we wanted to have, which is for next week. If the people on here are interested and have time to meet once again, next week is about the opposite ways of feelings. And we were actually talking more about how do I deal with when I'm feeling sad and happy at the same time? How do I know how I'm dealing with this? Because I know Antje has really showcased her experiences in this. You just let it be what it is, but how does it show up, and what other options are there? And I think what I just heard is exactly that same thing. It's about seeing that there is always the opposite. Something always will go away and turn into something else, whatever that something else is. And so I loved how you brought this back to our awareness, because it really is something that we are so attached to how something is, and we make it a forever kind of expression, and it is with everything. And perception, I mean, I too can talk about not self-care per se, but about these topics that we're touching on every day, all day. I mean, like I said, I'm passionate about mindfulness. Mindfulness is here to really bring awareness to two different things, to not just two different things, but to everything that just shows up in your body, in your mind, in your surroundings, in the people around you, and how to hold space for all of them. And I know that Naomi was talking about this earlier, is like, just be with it. And be with it means it can get very uncomfortable. And we have to learn to be uncomfortable with the unknown that Antje was talking about, because it is our hindrance to have a brain the way it functions, that has the capability of projecting. It has the capability of memorizing. It has the capability of connecting the two and making something that isn't here, which is a great tool to have. But it can also be a great tool that hinders us to be present and the true self that we are. Because another thing I was thinking, you know, we always talk about how I can help you be the person you want to be, right? Sometimes you want to do that, but actually it's not about how and who you want to be. It's about who you already are.
Yes.
Because what Thich Nhat Hanh is saying is like, you already are enlightened. You just have to eliminate all the stuff that we've been doing, that Antje was showcasing so beautifully, from being a baby to where we are today, removing all these layers to showcase this enlightenment that we have, to showcase the greatness that we are. We are already great, but with all the expectation, with the perfectionism, with all these other things that people make us believe we have to have or do, we're hindering to be who we already are. And with that, I invite you to say your last words, whatever your takeaway is, and whatever else comes up for you.
I was just thinking of when you said about learning or become comfortable being uncomfortable. I was just thinking how to deal with this. And I'm thinking about Diana, breathe, okay? And one of my easiest and most loved hate ways of becoming comfortable being uncomfortable is a cold shower, like what Diana also inspired by the cold bath, because that is a quick and easy way of learning to be comfortable, uncomfortable, and training your mind, seriously, training your mind to say, you know what, that is that little bit of a shock, but it's okay. And that is such a beautiful way of building resilience and building understanding, and also, again, coming back into the body, because when our minds and emotions are running away with us, we know we're in the body. So if I don't know where you're listening from in the world, okay, but go and have a cold bath or a cold shower, or go and jump in an ice lake, or go into the sauna, because it really, or find any way that is safe and appropriate to bring you back into the moment, because when you're back in the moment, you're in your body. That's my final words.
Well, now I have to follow that, right? Yes, for me, absolutely. Cold bath or just mindfulness, being in the nature. But going back to your body, it's actually even more important, because mindfulness, when you are in the nature, you actually, sometimes for me, it's beautiful, and you take your mind out somewhere else and focus on something else. But if you focus on your body, it's even more powerful, I find. And yes, in the cold water, you actually really do have to both use this. You can't do anything else. You need to focus on your body and your breath and relaxing, because if you don't, it will be uncomfortable, and your body will remember that, and you will not be able or want to do that again. But when you actually go through that and relax and realize that actually you can affect your body, you can affect your nervous system, and actually you can affect your thoughts. It's kind of empowering as well. And that you can actually affect how you are feeling at the end, and catch yourself easier in the future, and all the things. And yeah, it's powerful and it's amazing. And thank you, Antje, for making this so it's because I love it, and I'm happy that you love it too, because it's really powerful. It really truly brings you fast into the now.
So good.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I'm not yet into cold showers, but I have done a couple of cold lake jumps, and my partner and friends of his do that pretty regularly, and it's unbelievable to watch and experience their transformation when they do it, when it's the most cold and the most challenging. But it's, and we had a teacher, Aditya, didn't we, that in the inner MBA, that he really talked up the cold showers. So I might have to shift in there somewhere along the line. For me, the biggest gift of my process to date has been an ability to be more facile with just noticing what the signs are when I'm out of alignment. So, and now what I'm doing, even when I'm coaching, is, and I'm not experiencing it today at all, which is beautiful, but often I'll experience like a dry mouth, or I'll speak too fast. Those are two things right away off the bat. Or I'll auto accommodate, like I'll know I'll want to rush to say yes or something like that. So I've put in sort of stop gaps, like pause. I even have a bracelet that says pause one that I used for a long time. And I'm really excited, like in this in the spirit of transparency and bringing people along on the process of transformation. It's like, wow, I'm noticing feeling really at ease today with you all, really relaxed. Maybe it's because I didn't expect to be here. I was making tea for Aditya and I didn't realize I was supposed to be here. So I'm really grateful for that. And just showing up with what's going on, and just really noticing and saying what's up. That gives me so much more permission and space to be human and be authentic. So I'm celebrating that. Yes.
Thank you. This is fabulous. It is amazing. And yes, pause is pretty much self-care. It is really being able to pause, because if we can't be able to pause, even in a conversation, in a talk, in just talking to someone, showcases us how difficult it is also to do self-care, because that's, to me, just a reflection, because I too love to talk too fast, and I too have to remind myself that it's okay to have moments of silence, to catch your thoughts, and it's not a bad thing. It's just you think it's uncomfortable for the other people, when in fact it's more uncomfortable for you. The other people are just waiting and waiting. Okay, what's she gonna say? And so this is fabulous. Thank you everyone for showing up even last second. And I can't wait to get my tea on Friday in person. And so thanks again. And if it all works out, we'll be back here next week, same time, same place. We'll see how it all goes. You will find out if we're here or not. And just one last comment. I know Daniel Allen is here, as I mentioned, and he was just referring to Antje's let's just be in the moment with some fire flames attached to it. So yes to that. And cold showers are legit. I've had some amazing inspiration while under the coldness. So off we go. For those who are in the colder areas, that all of us are in this call at least, take that cold shower if you haven't yet, and let us know how you feel about them and what inspirations you got. So thank you for listening. Sharing with Heart will always be the first go-to. So thank you so much, and